What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to teach you how to go for your first scrape. So if you don't already know how to dip and foot brake kind of on command, go check out my foot brake like dipping tutorial, because you're going to have to know how to do that to be able to go for a scrape. The reason I'm making a separate one for scraping from that is because there's just a little like extra mental barrier. Like it's already scary and difficult to scrape on or to dip on command, but then to actually like touch that 12 bar or tail light or whatever you have to the ground is like a whole nother game. Like especially when you have a 12 bar, because when I was like first trying to go for a scrape, I wasn't sure if like the 12 bar was gonna like catch the ground and pull weird, if I would have to like know how to like control it, or if it was just gonna like kind of slide like butter and be fine. And honestly, the answer to that kind of changes depending on the surface. Like this surface right here, it's fine to scrape on, but if you scrape on, like say I scrape this direction and hit that little like, what you call it, like the little crack, the 12 bar could kind of catch up in there and it probably wouldn't really do much. It may kind of put me down depending on how big the bump would be, but for the most part it probably would just make like a loud sound of it like scraping the concrete, real rough. But yeah, anyway, so we're gonna get into the scrape now. Basically the way that you want to scrape typically is you're going to pop it up. You're going to try to gain some speed, because when you start going for the scrape, you'll usually lose a lot of speed, and if you lose too much speed, you'll get real like wobbly sideways, and you don't want to pancake. So you're going to try to pick up a little bit of speed, not too much, and go in for the scrape. And depending on how controlled you tossed it back, you can either go all the way to the scrape without braking at all, or you can kind of like catch it a little bit with the brake and go and scrape. So I think for this, I'm actually going to use the hand brake, because it's basically all the same, just so I can like show you a little more when I'm braking. So let's go ahead and pop it up here, and let's go for one where we brake without scrape without braking. So I did not touch the brake until after scraping right there, which you can kind of hear that it kind of hit the ground a little bit hard, but it's not that big of a deal. I didn't slam it that hard. It's just like a little bit firm, you know. And if I came with more speed, that might be like fine for like trying to drag it, but I'm not really dragging it. I'm just trying to tap it for you guys. So now let's do one where I kind of catch it with the brake, and I'll control the dip and then drop off of the brake to fall into the scrape. So we're gonna pop it up, gain a little bit of speed, come back, catch it with the brake, and let go of some brakes so we can drop. But you see how much speed I lost there and how it got wobbly after scraping? When you go that far back and you don't have a lot of speed, it's real hard to stay controlled. So I definitely recommend going for the scrape with a little bit of speed at least, like almost enough to where you could drag it out for a second if you were ready to do that. But you're not actually gonna drag it out. Like probably like here. See, that was like a solid like scrape, you know. And that one dragged a little bit. That's like a good healthy amount to where you can kind of toss it back into the ground and like not get sketchy before bringing it back. And then obviously, like once you've tapped it into the ground, you're gonna hit the foot brake again to bring it back. If you don't hit the foot brake, you'll just sit there scraping. So yeah, you definitely make sure you know that you need to hit the foot brake after scraping. But honestly guys, as far as like getting it to like actually touch the ground, like that's really all it is to it, is you either don't brake till you scrape. That's kind of a saying, no brake till scrape, or you kind of catch it just a little bit with the brake. And when you're braking, you're not like smacking the foot brake. Like I'm assuming you guys, if you're watching this, kind of know how to like stretch a dip out, not just as soon as you dip you're foot braking and going back and forth real hard, you know. Last thing I'm gonna say, because I know like this wheelie stuff is honestly a really big mental game, is if you're still struggling to like just let off of the foot brake long enough, because a lot of times what you'll do is you'll get like real close to scraping, but you just barely brake too early every time because you're like trying to find that distance. I would have somebody record you if possible, because when you have people record you and you can really see how close you are, it kind of just gives you a good like mind-body connection of like how high you actually are when you're doing this stuff. if you never see what it looks like, then it'll be, I think, a little bit harder to learn where that placement is, you know. Anyway guys, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe for future videos and tutorials, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.